Okay.
We are in the little village of Bazonville, and the reason I wanted to bring JD and History Underground to here is a little monument here to an airfield. One of the important aspects. In English, England, we call them fizzies for 50cc engines. Fizzies. He's got his fizzy there. So I'll start again.
Okay.
We are here in Bazonville, beside a church. This is the site of one of the over 20 airfields the Allies had built within 7 days of the invasion. We often, when we come to Normandy, look at the monuments to the infantry units, the engineers, commandos, paratroops, and we forget the importance of the air power that was over everything. And the airfields were constructed very simply. They used a steel mesh to roll out the runways, the hard standings on the pierced steel planking to make the areas for the aircraft to sit on. And you talk about the American 9th Air Force and the British and Commonwealth 2nd Tactical Air Force. And here in Bazonville was actually one of the very important areas because it was the group control centre for 83 Group, which had several squadrons. Notably, Wing Commander Johnny Johnson flew out of this airfield at various points. He was probably, after Douglas Bader, one of the most famous British pilots of World War II. And the French air ace, Pierre Closterman, who wrote a fantastic book about World War II and his experiences, flew out of this airfield as well. And a lot of people who read about Normandy, they've got a bit of a false idea about the importance of the air power, because whether you're American, British soldiers, you'd come back and you say, oh, the Air Force was never there, they were never knocking out those 2 tanks that were ahead of us there. The issue in Normandy was of the closeness of the Allied troops to the German troops, and so close air support wasn't accurate enough to knock out necessarily a tank that's 50 feet away from you. It's not like Saving Private Ryan when the Mustangs come at the end and they knock out the Tiger tank just, a few yards away from the bridge. So the British and Americans and Canadians fighting would see these aircraft flying off, but they didn't seem to be engaging the tanks or the artillery that was bearing down on them. So they kind of had this idea that why are the Air Force never helping us out? Well, what the 2nd Tactical Air Force and 9th Air Force were doing is they were hitting the Germans 20 miles away. They were hitting them when the reinforcements were coming up. So maybe, instead of it being 2 German tanks bearing down on an American unit, it was 1, because 1 had been knocked out. Or instead of it being 10, it was only 3. So it's built up this idea that the Air Force weren't doing anything. And as someone who really believes in the importance of our air supremacy, I like to tell people who come to Normandy that don't just consider the operations on the ground, consider the operations in the sky as well. D-Day alone, 11,000 sorties flown over the beaches to make the landing safe, and over the next few months the airfield here was buzzing with Typhoons and Spitfires, and further west where the American airfields are, Mustangs and P-47s doing this incredible job of delaying the German reinforcements from getting here or causing them to suffer casualties on their way getting here. So it's important to just recognise the real valuable contribution the Air Force, or the American Army Air Force and the British Royal Air Force, made to the winning of the Battle of Normandy.